The infusion room at Northvale Cancer Center smelled like saline and lavender hand sanitizer, and my mother had been in the recliner for 4 hours and 17 minutes when my father stood up and said he needed to step out to make a phone call. It was 3:42 in the afternoon. Round 6 of 8. My mother was so tired she could not lift her water bottle. I picked it up for her. I held the straw to her lips. She drank 2 sips and closed her eyes. My father did not come back. I assumed he had gone to get coffee. I assumed he was in the hallway. I assumed a lot of things in the 17 minutes between when he walked out and when the front desk called my mother's recovery room and asked, in a confused voice, if Mrs. Kerrigan was still here, because her husband had checked her out at 3:48 and had told the receptionist that another driver was coming. The receptionist on the phone said, "Ma'am, did your husband leave the building?" I looked at the empty chair next to my mother's recliner. His coat was gone. His briefcase was gone. The next morning at 9:11 a.m., he filed a petition for divorce. The papers had been ready in his briefcase. The papers had been signed 3 days earlier. He had sat with my mother through her 6th round of chemotherapy with a divorce petition in his lap. Welcome back to Broken Relations. If this is your first time here, we tell stories about families, boundaries, and the quiet moments that change everything. Hit subscribe, drop a comment, and let's get into it. My mother is in Kerrigan. She is 61. She was diagnosed with stage 3 ovarian cancer 14 months before that afternoon in the infusion room. She had been a 6th-grade language arts teacher for 33 years before her diagnosis. The students at Pemberton Middle School had made her a quilt when she went on medical leave. 46 squares, each one signed in fabric marker. "We love you, Mrs. K. Get better soon. The library is not the same without you." The quilt sat folded at the foot of her hospital bed at home. She slept with one corner of it in her hand most nights. My father is Gerald Kerrigan. He is 63. He is a regional manager for an industrial supply company that sells valves and gaskets to manufacturing plants in 3 states. He had been at the same company for 29 years. He drove a silver sedan. He drank black coffee. He wore the same brand of polo shirt in 7 colors. He was for 38 years of marriage to my mother, the steadiest man I had ever known. I am Maeve. I am 34. I am my parents' only child. I work as a hospital chaplain at a regional medical center about 40 minutes from the house I grew up in. My job on most days is to sit with people who are losing somebody. I had thought, before that afternoon, that this was a profession that prepared you for the worst kinds of grief. I want to say very clearly that nothing prepares you for sitting in an infusion room at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and realizing the person you have been holding on to for 14 months has just walked out of the building with a divorce petition in his briefcase. I had been driving my mother to chemo for 6 months. My father had taken the first 8 rounds. He had been, by all accounts, a good caregiver. He had made her oatmeal in the mornings. He had read aloud to her from a P.D. James novel during the longer infusions. He had walked the dog. He had paid the medical bills. He had been the man you would describe to a friend as holding it together remarkably well. And then in March, 6 months before that afternoon, he had told my mother and me that he needed to scale back at work because the stress of caregiving had become too much. He had said he wanted to be more present. He had asked if I could pick up the chemo days. I had said yes immediately. I had felt grateful that he had asked. I had thought it meant he was being honest about his limits. I had been wrong about almost everything in that sentence. The receptionist transferred me to the head nurse, a woman named Yolanda who had known my mother since round 1. Yolanda came into the recovery room within 90 seconds. She crouched next to my mother's recliner. She did not ask me what was happening. She had been doing this work long enough to read a face. She said, "And we are going to take you home. Maeve will drive you. I am going to walk you both out. Take your time." My mother said, "Where is Gerald?" I said, "Mom, I don't know. The desk says he checked you out and left." My mother looked at me. The expression on her face was not surprise. I want to say that very clearly. The expression on her face was the expression of a woman who had been holding a question inside herself for a long time and had just been handed the answer. She said very quietly, "Oh, that was all. Oh, 1 syllable." The sound of a key turning in a lock she had been listening to for months. I drove her home. I helped her up the porch steps. I unlocked the front door. The dog, a 14-year-old beagle named Truman, met us in the foyer. My father's coat hook was empty. His briefcase was not on the bench by the door. His shoes were not on the mat. His car was not in the driveway. I walked her to the bedroom. I helped her into bed. I pulled the quilt with the 46 squares up to her chin. She closed her eyes. She said, "Maeve, look in the bottom drawer of the dresser, the one on his side, underneath the wool sweaters." I said, "Mom, what am I looking for?" She said, "I don't know yet, but it will be there." I opened the drawer. I lifted the wool sweaters. Underneath them was a thin manila folder I had never seen before. I sat on the edge of the bed. I opened it. Inside was a printed copy of a divorce petition. The filing date on it was the next morning. The attorney listed was a man named Hollis Brennan, whose firm was in a city about an hour from us. The petition was already signed. The notary stamp was 3 days old. There was also a copy of a financial disclosure form. I scanned it. My father had been moving money for at least 18 months. There was a separate retirement account he had opened that I did not recognize. There were monthly transfers of $3,000 to that account going back a year and a half. There was a checking account at a different bank with a balance of $84,000. Underneath the financial disclosure was a letter. It was on letterhead from a real estate agent named Brittany Voss. The letter was a confirmation of a deposit my father had made on a townhouse in a development called Linden Hollow, in a town 25 miles east of where we lived. The deposit had been made 11 months earlier. The closing had been completed 7 weeks earlier. The deed was in my father's sole name. The letter was a thank you note from Brittany Voss for completing the move-in walkthrough the previous week. My mother, in her bed, had not moved. I sat on the edge of the bed with the folder in my lap. I did not say anything. I waited. My mother opened her eyes. She said, "Read it to me. All of it." I read it to her. The petition. The disclosure. The townhouse letter. I read it slowly. She listened with her eyes closed. When I finished, she opened her eyes. She said, "Maeve, I have known something was wrong for 14 months. I want to tell you when I knew. I want to tell you now while I have the energy." I said, "Mom, you should rest." She said, "Maeve, I have round 6 in my veins. There is no rest. Listen." She told me. She told me that the day she was diagnosed, 14 months earlier, she had come home from the doctor's office and told my father in the kitchen, and my father had said, "And I'm so sorry, we will get through this," and she had hugged him, and she had felt, in the way his arms went around her, something she could not name but which had stayed in her body for 14 months. "He held me," she said. But he was not in his arms. She had thought it was shock. She had thought it was his way of grieving. She had let it go. A week later, she had come into the kitchen at 6 o'clock in the morning and found him on his laptop with the screen tilted away from her. And when she had asked him what he was working on, he had closed the laptop and said just work and gone upstairs to shower. A month later, she had asked him to add her to a credit card she had been on for years, and which she had not used in a while. He had told her the card was fine and not to worry about it. She had checked the next statement. Her name had been removed 2 months earlier. In April, 6 months before that afternoon, my father had said he needed to scale back work. The next day, my mother had driven past his office on her way home from a doctor's appointment. His car had been in the lot. She had not said anything. In June, my mother had asked him to refill her prescription at the pharmacy on the way home from his short workday. He had said yes. He had come home 4 hours later with the prescription. The pharmacy was 12 minutes from our house. In July, my mother had found a receipt for a hardware store in a town 25 miles east of us. The receipt was for a set of curtain rods, a shower caddy, and a doormat. She had not asked him about it. She had filed it in a small leather notebook she kept in the drawer of her bedside table. She had filed many things in that notebook. Receipts, dates, phone numbers she had seen on his phone screen when he had not been looking. The license plate of a car that had been parked outside our house at 11 o'clock one night in August. My mother had been compiling evidence for 14 months while undergoing chemotherapy. I want to pause here for a second. There is a particular kind of woman who, when her body is fighting for her life, also keeps a small leather notebook of details that do not add up. My mother is that woman. She had not told me. She had not told my father she suspected. She had simply kept the notebook. She had taken her chemo. She had let him hold her hand through the 4-pole. If you have ever been a woman who knew, drop a comment. I read them. I am asking because I think there are many of you and you have been very quiet and I would like you to know I see you. My mother said, Maeve, the notebook is in the bedside drawer. The one with the lamp on it. Underneath my reading glasses. I opened the drawer. I lifted her reading glasses. The notebook was there. It was small brown leather, the size of an index card pad. The pages were filled with her teacher's handwriting. Dates, times, locations. A phone number with a 410 area code. A license plate that began with the letters TXR. A list of receipts with the dates and amounts in stores. A list of conversations with the dates and the words she remembered. Said he was at the pharmacy. Pharmacy is 12 minutes. Was gone 4 hours. Came home with prescription. No back. That kind of thing. Specific. Calm. Documentary. The last page of the notebook had a single line written across it in pencil. Dated 3 weeks earlier. It said, he has been planning to leave on round 6. I looked at my mother. She said, I knew the date. I did not know the hour. He had it scheduled. I have been watching for it. I will tell you why I knew the date in a minute. First, drink some water yourself. You are very pale. I drank some water. My hand was shaking. My mother's hand was on the quilt, very still. She said, round 6 was the last round he had committed to before he asked you to take over. Round 7 and 8 were going to be on you alone. He chose round 6 because it was his last act of caregiving. He told someone. I do not know who. I overheard him on the phone in May. He said, I'll be there for round 6. Then I'm done. I had been sitting in the hallway in the rocking chair. He did not know I was there. He thought I was upstairs. I never asked him about it. I wrote it in the book. I waited. I said, Mom, why did you wait? She said, because I had cancer, Maeve. I needed to finish the rounds. I needed his insurance card. I needed his calm in the chemo chair. I needed him to drive me home until you could take over. I needed him to be the version of himself he was performing, because the real version of himself was going to be a problem I could not solve while my hair was falling out. I waited. I am not proud of it. I am not ashamed of it either. I survived him. I said, Mom. She said, Maeve. Tomorrow at 9:11 in the morning he is going to file. We have until then to decide what we are going to do. I have a friend. Her name is Deidre Aldrich. She is a divorce attorney. She has been my book club friend for 12 years. She does not know any of this. I would like you to call her. I called Deidre Aldrich that evening at 6:30. I introduced myself. I told her I was in Kerrigan's daughter. I told her my mother needed to speak with her tonight urgently. Deidre said, Maeve, I am leaving my office in 10 minutes. I will be at your mother's house in 45. She arrived at 7:18. She was 62, my mother's age. She had been at our house twice before for book club. I had met her once. She came in with a leather portfolio and a bottle of sparkling water, and she did not waste time on small talk. She sat next to my mother's bed. My mother told her everything. The petition. The townhouse. The notebook. The phone call she had overheard. The 14 months. Deidre listened without taking notes for the first 20 minutes. Then she opened her portfolio and she started writing. When my mother finished, Deidre said, And I have known you for 12 years and I had no idea any of this was happening. I am so sorry. I want to be clear about something. He filed at 9:11 tomorrow morning, you said? My mother said. He has not filed yet. The petition is dated for tomorrow. Deidre said. Then we have a window. A very small one. And do you want to file first? My mother said. What does that change? Deidre said. Filing first does not give you a legal advantage in this state. But it gives you a procedural one. You set the venue. You set the timeline. You also send a message that you are not surprised and you are not unprepared. Most importantly, if we file tonight as an emergency motion citing the chemotherapy and his abandonment of you in the infusion room today, we can ask the court for a temporary restraining order on his accounts and a request for emergency spousal support to cover medical expenses. We can lock down every account he has access to before he files in the morning. My mother said, "Can we file tonight?" Deidre said, "I can have a draft ready by 11 o'clock. We can e-file at midnight. You will need to sign. You will need a notary. I have a notary who lives 12 minutes from here and who owes me a favor." My mother said, "Do it." Deidre worked at our kitchen table from 8:15 to 10:48. I made her coffee. I made my mother a piece of toast. My mother dozed and woke and dozed. Deidre asked questions. My mother answered them with the notebook in her hand. By 11 o'clock, Deidre had a petition. By 11:14, the notary had arrived. He was a kind older man named Mr. Asakura who, when my mother apologized for keeping him out late, said, "Mrs. Kerrigan, I have known your family for years. This is not an inconvenience. This is an honor." My mother signed. Mr. Asakura stamped. Deidre filed at 11:42 p.m. Deidre also filed an emergency motion for a temporary restraining order on the marital accounts. The motion went to a judge for emergency review. The judge granted it at 12:36 a.m. By 1 o'clock in the morning, every account my father had access to was frozen pending equitable distribution. I helped my mother into bed at 1:30. She held my hand. She said, "Maeve, I want you to sleep here tonight. I do not want to be alone in the house when he tries to come back." I slept on the couch. Truman the beagle slept at my feet. I did not sleep much. I want to stop here and say something. There is a kind of strength that does not look like strength. It looks like a 61-year-old woman with no eyebrows and a port in her chest, lying in a bed under a quilt 46 middle schoolers had stitched, calmly directing a midnight legal filing. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She did not say a word against my father. She had been preparing for this for 14 months while her body had been preparing to die. She was not going to do either of those things on his timeline. If this is hitting close, drop a comment. I am asking because there is a specific kind of woman who knows what it is to be sick and watched and quietly betrayed at the same time, and I would like to know who you are. My father came home at 7:45 the next morning. I was at the kitchen counter making my mother tea. I heard his car in the driveway. I heard the front door open. I heard him take off his shoes. He walked into the kitchen. He stopped when he saw me. He said, "Maeve, what are you doing here?" I said, "I stayed last night. Mom needed me." He said, "Where is your mother?" I said, "She's resting." He said, "Maeve, I need to talk to her. I need to tell her something." I said, "Dad, she knows." He stopped. He was holding his keys. The keys made a small sound against his palm. I said, "Dad, your accounts are frozen. The petition you were going to file at 9:11 this morning has already been filed by Mom. Deidre Aldridge represents her. There is a temporary restraining order on every joint account. There is also an emergency motion for spousal support, which will be heard next Tuesday. You need to leave this house. You need to call your attorney. You need to do it from somewhere that is not here." His face did something I had never seen it do before. It went slack. Then it went tight. Then it went slack again. He said, "Maeve, you don't understand. Your mother and I." I said, "Dad, you sat with her through chemotherapy yesterday with a divorce petition in your briefcase. There is no version of that sentence that ends with me understanding anything. Please leave." He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said very quietly, "Can I get my things?" I said, "Deidre said you can send a list to her office and she will have a moving service deliver them to your townhouse on Linden Hollow. She said you are not to enter the house except in her presence and the presence of one of Mom's representatives. I am one of those representatives. So you can come back next Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning, with Deidre and a moving service, and you can take what is yours. Today you need to leave." He looked at the kitchen. He looked at the dog. He looked at the ceiling for a long second. Then he turned and walked out the front door. I heard his car start. I heard him drive away. I went upstairs. My mother was awake. She had heard everything. She was sitting up in bed. She said, "Maeve, you did very well." I said, "Mom, She said, "I know. Come here." I sat on the edge of the bed. She put her hand on my face. She said, "I am so sorry you had to do that." I said, "Mom, I am sorry you had to live the last 14 months," she said. "We are going to be sorry for each other for a long time. That is what this is. Now go make breakfast. I am hungry. Round 6 is the worst one. They told me. I want eggs." I made eggs. She ate 2 bites. She slept the rest of the day. The discovery process took 6 months. I want to walk you through what we found because the picture matters. The townhouse on Linden Hollow had been purchased 11 months earlier with a down payment of $94,000. The down payment had come from a series of small withdrawals from the joint accounts over the previous 18 months, each one small enough to not trigger my mother's attention if she had been checking, but cumulatively significant. My mother, of course, had been checking. The notebook had a list of every withdrawal he had made in the last 14 months, with a small notation about each one. Most of them said unexplained. The retirement account I had not recognized turned out to be a separate IRA my father had opened 22 months earlier. He had been making monthly contributions of $3,000. The total balance at the time of disclosure was $66,000. The funds had come from his paycheck, which my mother and I had assumed was being deposited into the joint account. He had been routing $3,000 of each paycheck directly to the new IRA before deposit. My mother had noticed the joint account balance was lower than it should have been 6 months in. She had not known why. She had logged it in the notebook. She had not asked. The checking account at the different bank had been opened 26 months earlier. It had a balance of $84,000 at the time of the freeze. The deposits to it had come from a side consulting income my father had earned doing freelance industrial supply work for a company in another state. He had been doing this work for 3 years without my mother's knowledge. The income had not been reported on their joint tax returns. This last detail mattered. Deidre flagged it for separate consideration. There was also, and this was the part that changed everything, a woman. Her name was Renata Pell. She was 47. She was a vice president at a manufacturing company my father's firm had supplied for 12 years. She lived in the town 25 miles east of US, which is to say, the same town as the townhouse on Linden Hollow. The relationship, by Renata's own statement to my father's attorney during deposition, had begun 2 years before my mother's diagnosis. 2 years. Which meant that for 16 months before my mother got cancer, my father had been involved with another woman. And then for 14 months after, he had stayed in the relationship, while caring for my mother, while planning his exit. Renata also told the deposition that she had been told my parents were already separated when the relationship began. She had been told my mother was emotionally absent. She had been shown a photograph of my mother in the hospital, taken without permission during round 1 of chemotherapy, as evidence that Anne is being cared for at a facility. My mother had never been treated at a facility. She had received every chemo round as an outpatient and slept in her own bed every night. The photograph had been taken by my father on his phone, while my mother was dozing in the recliner. He had cropped out the 4. He had told Renata it was a long-term care facility. Renata said, in the deposition, that she had ended the relationship the morning after the chemo abandonment. She had read about the emergency motion in a local court filing news brief. Renata, it turned out, had a habit of reading court filings. She also had a daughter. She also had a mother who had died of ovarian cancer 8 years earlier. When she read the motion, she understood what my father had told her. She drove to his townhouse that morning. She left her key on his counter. She left a note that said, "Gerald, I do not know who you are. I know who you said you were. I'm sorry I did not check." Renata sent my mother a letter through Deidre's office 2 weeks later. The letter was 3 pages long. It was an apology. It was specific. It named the photograph, the facility lie, the timeline. It included a copy of every text message my father had sent her about my mother, which Renata had retained and which Deidre subpoenaed for the divorce proceeding. The texts were the document I cannot bring myself to summarize in full. They described my mother in language my father had never used to her face. They referenced her hair loss as no longer recognizable. They referenced her chemotherapy as the timeline. The phrase "the timeline" appeared in 17 messages. He had been waiting. Renata had thought he was waiting for the divorce. He had been waiting for the cancer. I want to pause one more time, because I know that is a sentence that is hard to read, and I am sorry. If you have ever been someone whose illness was an event on someone else's calendar, drop a comment. Tell me. I read them. There are more of you than I would have believed before this happened. The case settled before trial. My father knew by the time Renata's letter arrived that he had no leverage. The texts alone would have destroyed him in front of a judge. The unreported consulting income would have destroyed him with the IRS. The chemo abandonment, with 3 witnesses including the head nurse and the front desk receptionist, would have destroyed him in the local press, which Deidre had quietly made clear she was prepared to pursue if he chose to litigate. The settlement. My mother got the house free and clear. My mother got 100% of the joint accounts, which was, by that point, a smaller amount than the separate accounts my father had been funding, and which she received in full. My mother got 60% of my father's primary retirement account, calculated on the basis of his 38-year contribution history during the marriage. My mother got 100% of the secondary IRA he had opened 22 months earlier, on the basis that it had been funded with diverted marital income. My mother got 100% of the secondary checking account on the same basis. My mother got the unreported consulting income reimbursed at full value, plus interest. The townhouse on Linden Hollow was sold and the proceeds split, with my mother getting 80% on the basis that it had been purchased with diverted marital funds. My father agreed to pay my mother's attorney fees in full. My father agreed to a non-disparagement clause and a non-contact provision that prevented him from initiating any communication with my mother for 5 years. My mother agreed to release the IRS referral. My father signed. My mother signed. It was over by January. My mother finished round 7 of chemo 2 weeks after my father moved out of the house. I drove her. The infusion room knew. I do not know how. I had not told them. But Yolanda hugged my mother at the door, and the woman in the recliner next to ours, a woman named Pat with breast cancer and a husband who was sitting beside her holding her hand, leaned over and said, "And, you are not alone." My mother cried for the first time since the receptionist had called the recovery room. She cried for about 20 minutes. Pat held her hand. Pat's husband held my hand. Yolanda brought us all tea. By the time the round was over, my mother had stopped crying and she was somehow laughing about a joke Pat had made about the gowns. Round 8 was 4 weeks later. My mother finished it on a Tuesday afternoon. The nursing staff brought a small cake to the recovery room. They sang. My mother blew out a candle. She said her wish, which she said out loud against tradition, because she said tradition had not served her very well lately. Her wish was to be ordinary again. She got it. Mostly. The scans came back clear 3 months later. They have been clear ever since. It has been 3 years. My mother went back to teaching part-time after a year. She teaches 6th grade language arts at Pemberton Middle School 2 days a week. They had held a position open for her. The principal, a woman named Marcy Holcomb, had said on the day my mother had told her she was returning, "And you are coming back to a job that has been waiting for you. Take it slow. The kids need you to take it slow so they know they can take it slow when they need to." My mother kept the quilt with the 46 squares on the foot of her bed for 2 years. Then she had it framed in 3 sections, one for each grade level the squares had come from, and now they hang above her reading chair in the den. She looks at them every morning when she has her coffee. My father lives in a different state now. He moved a year after the divorce. I do not know much about his life. Renata never returned to him. Deidre told me 6 months after the divorce was finalized that Renata had moved to a different city and changed jobs. I have never met her. I have her 3-page letter in a file in my desk at home. I read it once a year, on the anniversary of the day my mother stopped lying to herself about him. The letter is the document that taught me something I had not understood before. People who participate in a betrayal can also be the ones who end it. Sometimes the woman on the other side of the affair is the one who reads the court filings. I did not write to my father. He did not write to me. The non-contact provision was for my mother. It was not for me. He could have written. He chose not to. I think about that sometimes. I think it is the cleanest answer he ever gave me about what kind of man he was. Truman the Beagle died 8 months after my father moved out. He was old. He had been old for years. My mother and I buried him in the backyard under the dogwood. My mother said, "Truman knew. Animals always know." I want to talk about my mother now because the rest of this story is hers. She started a support group at the cancer center 18 months after she finished chemo. She called it the Notebook Group. It is for women who suspect, while undergoing treatment, that something else is wrong at home. The first meeting had 4 women. The most recent meeting had 31. She gave me permission to say this. She wants other women to know it exists. The center now lists it in their patient materials. Yolanda, who is still the head nurse, is the one who hands the flyer to the women who walk in alone for round 1 and who, when asked who is at home with them, answer slowly. My mother runs the group on the second Tuesday of every month. She does not advertise her own story. She does not need to. The women find her. They sit in a circle. They drink tea. They open their notebooks. They share what they have written. They go home. They do not feel crazy anymore. I have sat in on 3 meetings. My mother does not say much. She listens. She nods. She makes notes on a separate pad. At the end she says one sentence, the same sentence every time. You are not making this up. Write it down. Tell someone you trust. You are allowed to wait. You are allowed to decide. We are here. She says this in her teacher's voice. The voice that had told 6th graders for 33 years that they were capable of more than they thought. I want to end with this. There is a kind of woman who, while her hair is falling out, also keeps a small leather notebook. There is a kind of man who sits beside her with a divorce petition in his briefcase. There is a kind of daughter who learns at 34 that the steadiness of her father was a costume he wore while he counted the months. And there is a kind of family that survives this. We are that family. My mother is the reason. She did not survive because she was strong, although she was. She did not survive because she was lucky, although she was. She survived because she paid attention. She wrote it down. She waited. She let the cancer be the priority while the cancer was the priority. And then when she had survived the chemo, she let the truth be the priority. 2 priorities. She knew the order. She did not let anyone, not even my father, rearrange it. If this story stayed with you, drop a comment. Tell me whether you have a small leather notebook. Tell me whether your mother does. Tell me whether you are someone in round 1 or round 6 right now, and what you have written down. If you know someone who needs this story, a daughter, a mother, anyone who is sitting in an infusion room next to a person whose attention has begun to drift in a way she cannot name, share this video with them. There are more stories like this on this channel. The link is in the description. Thank you for listening. The notebook is in a drawer. The quilt is on the wall. My mother is teaching 6th grade 2 days a week. And on the second Tuesday of every month, a circle of women in folding chairs at the cancer center holds the rest of us up. I mean that.